Hi, Alex Polyak here. In December 2024, several old design documents of GTA games were leaked, giving fans more interesting information about the early concepts and beta versions of our favorite games. In this video, I'm going to start analyzing the document dedicated to the girlfriends of CJ, the main character of GTA San Andreas. The pages of this Rockstar North artifact describe 8 different female characters, and let's start the analysis with the first one, whose name is Coochie Robinson. Having heard this last name, you probably guessed that in the final version of the game, this is Denise Robinson. Let me remind you that this is CJ's first girlfriend, whom we meet in the Burning Desire mission. The name Coochie was conceived by the designers for a reason, because it is a slang name meaning a female genital organ. This seems symbolic, considering the loose sex life of Miss Robinson, which is known thanks to the plot and some of her phrases. Interestingly, the early name of this girl is still in the game, or more precisely, in the files. For example, this is the name that is used on the model of her house. Speaking of the house, let me remind you that it is located in the Ganton area, very close to Grove Street. However, according to the early idea, Coochie was supposed to live in some part on the territory of an enemy gang called the Flats, which means Ballas in the beta version. In addition, in the design document, Coochie is described as a Flats girl. And it also says that the player should drive up to the park and honk the horn, after which a girlfriend will come out of the shadows or bushes and jump into the car. Apparently, this is due to the fact that Denise was afraid of being noticed by local gangsters from the Flats. The document says that Robinson likes the danger of a relationship with a guy from a rival gang. We are talking about the relationship with CJ, and apparently with the Vagos from the Burning Desire mission. She considers it romantic in the spirit of Romeo and Juliet, and this is not just some empty comparison by the designer, but a detail that was showed directly in the game. In the final version of GTA San Andreas, during a date, Denise can sometimes call the main character Romeo.
What's up, Romeo?
Hey, gorgeous.
What a great meal, Romeo. Take me home, Romeo. You better treat me good.
Uh-huh. Really?
But unfortunately, the meaning of such an expression was greatly distorted because the developers did not associate this girl with the Ballas gang and made her loyal to the gang of CJ himself. Therefore, a cool detail about lovers from feuding families Romeo and Juliet was lost. If you look at the final map of San Andreas, then the only place suitable for Denise's initial residence seems to be Glen Park. Besides, this is the territory of the Ballas gang. It is also interesting that after completing the mission in which CJ saves this girl, Sweet calls him and gives him instructions to capture this park. Of course, I can't say for sure, but it seems to me that such a sequence of events was made by the developers for a reason. If you look at one of the early maps of the game, Glen Park is almost invisible there. It may have been a smaller version of it, or there was no park at all. Therefore, we can make another assumption that Robinson lived in another green area, for example in East Los Santos, in another Ballas territory. And yet, personally, I am inclined to the Glen Park option. I would like to separately note a couple of ambiguous but interesting observations. Even visually, Denise is more in harmony with the members of the Ballas gang than with the guys from the Grove Street families. But we must remember that during the development of the game, the appearance of the gang representatives repeatedly changed, and even veterans from the families once did not wear green clothes. Another detail is that Denise's personal weapon is a micro SMG, which is not at all typical of CJ's gang, but is often used by the guys from Ballas. But here it is worth remembering one nuance, because in some missions gang members can be seen with weapons that they do not have in the free roam mode of the game. Initially, they wanted to place posters of various rappers in her room, which would have been quite in the spirit of that times. The 90s, California, the heyday of gangster rap. And it would have been even more great to see posters of Mad Dog and other artists. But the developers apparently decided to save time and place the cover of GTA Vice City and posters of films from GTA 3 on the walls of the room. To be honest, this is completely illogical from a lore point of view, but we understand that in fact this is just an Easter egg. In any case, this room is not used in the game because it was intended for prohibited content known as hot coffee. The document specifically states that Coochie, or Denise, loves drive-bys, loves when the player is arrested, loves a high wanted level, and also burglary. But if we already know about drive-bys thanks to the original game, then the rest of the points seem to be elements of the beta version. And yet, I began to check this in the final version of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas game. It is noteworthy that if CJ is arrested on the first date with Denise, the relationship statistics will be 1% less, but the progress bar will show a plus sign, not a minus. Initially, I thought that this was a remnant of the system from the beta version, but then I noticed that Millie from Las Venturas has the same feature. These girls are connected by the fact that only they appear in the game's plot, and their statistics work in a peculiar way. I will tell you a little more about this. When the player meets girls not from the plot, the statistics from the very beginning show 15% of the relationship, and in the future, with unsuccessful dates, the relationship scale is displayed correctly. However, with the ladies from the storyline, the statistics start to be displayed only after the first date, so even if CJ is arrested, the game will show plus. This is the very first display of progress, so the game perceives it as growth, where it was 0% and became 14%. I hope I did not confuse you too much. However, this is not a very important part of the analysis, so let's move on. As for the high wanted level, which Denise likes according to the document, when checking in the original game, I did not notice anything special. And the burglary mission generally refuses to start during a date. But we can say for sure that such a function was conceived in the beta version, and this was one of Coochie's favorite activities. In addition, the document also mentions that the girl will be unhappy if you leave her during the burglary. What else could she be unhappy with according to the developers? Cheating, sadomasochism, too many gifts, and too rare activities. Perhaps the latter refers to the kisses available in the game during dates. She really doesn't like cheating, so when dating another girl, Denise may sometimes appear in the area, and then the player will need to hide from her. However, Robinson is not unique in this, because a similar situation is possible with any of CJ's other girlfriends. As for the sadomasochist costume, I did not notice any unusual reaction in the game. A separate item in the document indicates the girl's anger, which is affected by cheating, as well as if she is abandoned during a drive-by or burglary. In the original game, if she catches CJ with another girl, this should probably negatively affect the level of the relationship, and the same applies to leaving Denise during a date. However, it does not matter at all whether the player left in the middle of a drive-by or not. Now, the next point in the document is especially interesting because if I understood it correctly, the player faced unpleasant consequences if there were problems in the relationship with the girl. I don't know if this applied to any of CJ's misdeeds or if it was only supposed to work when breaking up with Denise. But according to an early idea, the Ballas bandits could arrange a drive-by for the protagonist, as if the girl had specifically set them on CJ. Let me remind you that in the original game, the Ballas begin to react aggressively to the player after the drive-by mission, unless of course you complete the pimping mission after that and break this hostile behavior. But here, the Ballas attack exclusively in groups on foot, and in the beta version, because of Coochie Robinson, we would have to face an enemy attack from passing cars. How do you like this CJ's girlfriend? Personally, I really like the early idea of playing out the Romeo and Juliet story between the families and the Ballas gangs. It's a shame that it doesn't work that way in the final game. As for some of the other things from the beta, maybe it was too complicated for the game at the time, or too much of a burden for the developers themselves, so some things were dropped, and perhaps that was a smart decision. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.